Hey everyone, how's it going? This is our 132nd solo run in Red and Blue, and it is our final fire type in Ninetales. Now I'm going to admit, growing up, I just didn't use Ninetales all that often, so it's going to be cool to finally get to use it here. I mean, that's the reason I do these challenges, by the way, to use Pokemon that I often never used as a kid, and now I get to really see the strengths and weaknesses of each Pokemon. One thing though that has become clear is that even though each Pokemon is unique, because of how simple Red and Blue are, certain types of Pokemon can kind of be grouped together, and the fire types, generally speaking, tend to suffer from similar problems. And if we look at our tier list for fully evolved Pokemon, and while there is definitely some separation here, there is way less than most of the other types, and none of the fire Pokemon have thus far been top tier. So will Ninetales be able to overcome what seems to be an inherent disadvantage fire Pokemon have? I'm not so sure. Ninetales, because it is a Pokemon that evolves in-game via Evolutionary Stone, learns no moves via level up. We get Ember and Quick Attack. Tail Whip maybe we're going to use to lower defense, but Roar is completely useless, meaning we have 3 moves and that's it. Unfortunately, our move list via TM is not great either, and this is the problem fire Pokemon typically have. Not a lot of moves to learn, and since Flamethrower wasn't made to be a proper TM until Generation 3, it can be really tough since we're stuck with either Ember, which is an incredibly weak move, and then once we beat the 7th gym, we get Fire Blast, which can miss and only has 5 power points, but we're going to have to eventually use it. Ninetales does not have any badge boosting moves, but it's in the medium fast level up group, unlike Arcanine, so maybe there's an advantage there, and its stats aren't too bad either. That said, how's it going to do versus Red and Blue? Obviously, I'm going to tell you. But first, a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. So Father's Day is coming up, and if you're wondering, what could I get Dad? Well, maybe a pair of earbuds might be what he likes. Now, these are known as the Essential Open Earbuds, and they're really cool. As you can see, they sit just outside the ear canal, so while I can hear my music or podcast or whatever it is I'm listening to, the great thing is I can also hear what's around me, which is especially useful when I'm wearing them to either work out and I'm talking to someone, or I'm going for one of my many walks outside. I want to be able to hear what's around me for various reasons, and these are great at that. The earbuds are also really comfortable, really light, and the hook rotates so that they're going to be in a good spot. Another great thing I really love about these earbuds is the battery life. Nothing is more annoying than having to charge your earbuds every single time. These get 8 hours of playtime, and with the charging case, that actually can be boosted all the way up to 36 hours, which is more than I ever need. Upgrade your dad's daily routine. Go to buyraycon.com/Jaros11open to get 15% off. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring. Now, you may have noticed that I battled all the bug catchers because I'm going to need that experience for Brock. Even though I have a type disadvantage, Brock doesn't actually have any rock moves, so I don't need to worry too much. The big RNG factor is Onyx and when it uses Bide. And sadly, I got some really bad luck, always right at the end of these battles, and you just kind of have to reset. Level 9 is actually good enough for Ninetales. However, it did take, I believe, 4 attempts to actually get a victory, which is not bad at all. Like in a lot of Brock battles, there's no real strategy. I just use Ember and hope. There is a 10% chance that we get a burn, and when that happens, well, that's really good, because Brock has to use a full heal, meaning he doesn't attack. Also, it's important to note that my speed is pretty good, and in Generation 1, your critical hit ratio is based on that 100 speed, and to give you the actual number, you just have to go 100 divided by 512, meaning I get a critical hit 19.5% of the time, or roughly 1 in 5, which is pretty good. Now, it's at this point I'm going to talk about some other stuff that I think is kind of interesting. I did link my Discord and a ton of you joined, with the interest of doing your own solo run for the eventual Clefable run, which should be out next month. I haven't recorded mine yet, but in interacting with some of these people who are new to the server and want to do runs but have never before, I realized that even though you may have watched me for 6 years, I don't actually talk a ton about what goes into making these runs, how to even change your starter, like where do I get rare candies, what do I buy when. So I'm going to, if I remember, link in the description a guide I made. It is not complete, and it's just a Google Doc, but if you're ever curious about routing or certain rules or things that I do, the document will fill in. I actually have always wanted to make a video, basically going over the way in which I make these runs, but I've always hesitated because I just don't know how much interest there really would be. And I know that seems like I'm basically begging for engagement. Oh, I would love it, J-Rose, but is it really all that interesting? Maybe it's something I would do on my secondary channel or an unlisted video. Like, it's definitely for like a few of you super interesting, and it's evolved quite a lot, no pun intended, over the years. But I will mention as you're watching, like, certain things I don't talk about. Like in Pewter City, I always buy 4 Pokeballs for Pidgey and Paris, and I always catch either a Pidgey or a Spearow and a Paris. Flying Pokemon for Fly, and then the Paris for Dig, which helps me get places quicker, as well as Cut. Now some runs, like this one for example, Ninetales is going to learn Dig, which means I don't actually need a Paris. In fact, in theory, I could have caught a Spearow and traded it for a Farfetch'd. I've mentioned this once or twice, but it's one of those things that once you start trying to do these yourself, you really wonder, well, what is J-Rose really doing? Like right here, I'm grabbing the escape rope. And the reason I do that is to warp back in Bill's house. This actually does not work in yellow version, but does in red and blue. I found that out the hard way. You might also see I battle a trainer here that I never battle, but because Ninetales is a fire type, I'm going to get a little bit of extra experience points to hopefully make Misty a little easier. And that's the thing, the guide is just going to be general rules, but every Pokemon is different. Some you're going to want Mega Punch, some you're going to want Water Gun, some you're going to want to battle the Hiker, some you're going to want to battle extra trainers. You're always going to have to make decisions on the fly. But if you're wondering like where I get my rare candies, what I buy, approximately what I do between the cuts, because I've never released the raw footage simply because on stream it's a little bit more casual and laid back. We talk about, like, I remember on this stream we talked a lot about which TV show had the biggest fall off, and it was a really fun discussion. It's just a different vibe than what we do in the videos, and so I've tried to keep those two separate. Although you're more than welcome to join. Some people really like the stream. But anyway, I think that's enough rambling for now. So you've seen more of Mount Moon than usual. And you've seen I still don't have a Paris, but I will get one. Now, because Ninetales is a fire Pokemon, battling Misty here would make 0 sense, so we're going to go battle Rival 2. Now, once again, we're kind of just using Ember and hoping, and sometimes Pidgeotto will cooperate really nicely, and sometimes it won't. Well, I guess that's more of a theoretical sometimes, because in our case, it cooperated right away, and you might see me switching between Ember and Quick Attack. The reasoning was, if I could avoid healing, that gives me more power points, but Squirtle ended up doing a ton of damage because Quick Attack is so weak and our attack just isn't that great, so I'm going to go back to the center and heal. But now we can continue up Nugget Bridge. Thankfully, I think we'll have enough power points for Embers and Quick Attacks. We got to be a little smart about which we use when, but we should have enough and not have to heal back in the center, and that's something that can save quite a bit of time because it is backtracking back and forth. Once I finish with all the trainers here and get the SS ticket, I do try to battle Misty, but before I do that, I actually want to grab just one more thing, and that is from beating this Rocket, we get Dig. Now, Dig is a base 100 power physical move, so it's also neutral, which is good. It should be good against Staryu and Starmie, but I'm just going to spoil this. I got some of the most atrocious luck I've ever gotten in my life. Following, I think, the first couple battles, Starmie would crit literally, and I mean literally, every single attack. To the point where I actually thought I needed to, like, shut off the game and just do a hard reset because I'd screwed something up in, like, RAM or I don't even know. I don't even know what happened and how. But ultimately, I would not beat Misty here, but I could not believe the amount of critical hits I had against me. I decided that part of why I was getting bad luck is that I was not one-shotting the Star U with Dig. And if I mean, listen, it means I have to delay Surge, and that's going to waste a little bit of time, but it probably is smarter for a couple of reasons. And so I do proceed to Vermilion and battle Rival 3, but more importantly, we have Body Slam. So the Rival 3 battle is definitely a heck of a lot easier with these two moves versus Quick Attack. It actually one-shot Pidgeotto, albeit with a crit. And then I use Dig, which one-shot... Oh, it doesn't one-shot Raticate. Okay, my bad. And then Body Slam will one-shot Kadabra. And then War Turtle, I try Body Slam, but when it doesn't one-shot, I was trying for the paralysis. I get a crit that may have mattered. But hey, another first try victory. Ninetales is doing kinda well so far, but the biggest problem with Ninetales, and I don't want to spoil anything, but if you've watched these videos, there are certain Pokemon or trainers that are just really hard for some of these solo run Pokemon. And we know what it's going to be for Ninetales. There's two trainers specifically right at the end that are going to be a huge problem. And since I've now done every single fire Pokemon, whoops, I can't use Cut, I didn't beat Misty, I need to plan ahead. And you might say, well, J-Rose, doesn't that give Ninetales an advantage? We'll see. Let's see if that's the case. But anyway, something I always forget to do is when I warp back to Cerulean, I do not heal in Vermilion at all, so I can do that. Gotta get the bike. Always forget to do that. Well, now I'm quite a few levels higher. I have Body Slam, so am I going to beat Misty? Well, I go for Dig and one-shot Staryu, albeit maybe a crit mattered. I go for Body Slam, trying the paralysis, and hey, what do you know, another crit against me. But this time I get my own crit, and yeah. Take that, Misty. Annoying. I actually don't, funny enough, have a lot to say about the next section of gameplay. Because we have Fire and Dig plus Body Slam, I was worried a little bit about the Super Nerd Cubone, but ultimately it didn't hit with Bone Club, so it wasn't a problem. And the Slowpoke in this game, by the way, don't have Water Gun at this level, so I don't need to worry about them there. I actually don't usually get poisoned by the last, but I did here, and thankfully I still have my antidote from all the way back in Viridian City, and now I might as well just keep it here for Whitgag, but Whitgag actually proved to be a joke. We use Dig, first Geodude self-destructs into nothing, Dig hits, knocking out Geodude number 2, and then Graveler self-destructs into nothing. So I guess there wasn't nothing to talk about, but nothing difficult, I should say. But we're going to move on a little bit to Celadon City, and we talked about Gyarados and needing to plan ahead, which is why I'm going to battle every single trainer in Erica's gym. Now, the reasoning here is not just simply for experience points, because if you want experience points, the later trainers give so much more because they have stronger Pokemon at higher levels, which, even if you account for the level curve, are just way more efficient to grind. However, these trainers will give me money, which I will use after I beat the Rocket Hideout, where I'll get more money to buy either proteins or calciums. Proteins will boost my attack, calciums will boost my special. With more special, we can tank Hydro Pump from Gyarados. With more attack, we can maybe knock out the Gyarados or Blastoise quicker. So I'll have to decide. Erica, I battle once I'm already poisoned, which made this battle a little more difficult than it needed to be. I get a really lucky crit, and that actually might have proved to win me the battle because we get a very annoying Wrap Poison combo going on. Then against Tangela, we don't one-shot, and it goes for, thankfully, Constrict and not Bind. And Vileplume has just Petal Dance, but it gets a crit. And you can see I was very close to losing, but we make it through, and after healing, we're going to go battle Giovanni number 1 in the Rocket Hideout. Now, I have Dig, but it doesn't one-shot Onix. Pretty good defense. So we're going to have to go for Ember and knock it out. It actually does one-shot Rhyhorn. Kangaskhan, I just go for Ember, and it's not that difficult to battle. Thankfully, Dig has actually been huge. If we didn't learn Dig, Ninetales would be in massive trouble. But now it's time to do a bit of shopping, and I need to decide. Do I go calciums, or do I go protein? And what I decided after thinking and talking out with chat, but more just kind of deciding on my own, I ended up buying 5 protein, which is actually more than I usually get. Now, there is a reason you need to do this right now. One of them is you're going to need the fresh water anyway in order to get to Saffron, which we're going to need to get back to Vermilion quickly. But also you need to do this now because once you gain too much stat experience, these were replaced with EVs in modern Pokemon, you cannot use vitamins anymore. Although, actually in super modern Pokemon, you can. There is no limit. You can just level up all the way with vitamins, so that's kind of cool. We're going to buy the Pokédoll because I'm pretty sure we're going to need to use Mimic at various points because our move pool is so shallow. By the way, I'm not doing this to plug my guide, but I included a picture that shows you the very, very broken way Lieutenant Surge's puzzle works. This is one of those things that I've used since the start of the solo runs, but I've never really mentioned, and now you can see it. Or if I have mentioned it, I forgot. I mean, can you blame me? It's been over 6 years. Surge was even easier than you'd expect him to be. I don't even use Dig. Body Slam is enough to one-shot all 3 Pokemon, which is faster than Dig because it's only 1 turn. And you don't get that annoying "it's super effective" message. So that's good. Speaking of good and also very easy, Rival 4. Rival 4 is typically under-leveled, although I don't one-shot every one of his Pokemon, and the Pidgeotto actually heals. But yeah, it's about the only interesting thing that happens because we got a crit on Wartortle, so Pidgeotto's the only thing that took 2 hits, and there's nothing else to talk about in the Pokemon Tower because we have Dig, so we can skip quite a bit ahead to Fuchsia City. Now, I am going to battle Koga because we have Dig, and there's a very high chance that Weezing just self-destructs into nothing the way Whitgag's Pokemon did, and that would be a nice win. This is another reason, by the way, the Erica trainers were important, because now we're at level 39, and that's going to help here, because we outspeed, well, that we would have done anyway, and one-shot. We two-shot the Muck. No, we don't, because I went for Body Slam, but we would have if I went for Dig. We then don't one-shot Coughing number 2. That's not good, but not the end of the world. Now we just need a nice self-destruct into nothing. We get Sludge, that's okay, and self-destruct into us. But we're bulky enough that it didn't matter anyway. Didn't expect that, but yay! That's what being fully evolved gets you. So it's at this point we're going to go and battle Rival Fivel, and it looked like I was about to hit a wall. My first battles with Rival Fivel did not go very well at all. Pidgeot liked to use Sand Attack, which I just couldn't deal with, and even once I made past Pidgeot, I just couldn't really see myself beating the entirety of Rival Fivel. However, before abandoning this, I decided to battle this one scientist because he has 2 strong Pokemon that gave me a lot of experience, giving me level 41. And I'm like, might as well try a few times. And the first couple didn't go so well. But the third time went quite a bit better. This time I actually went for Tail Whip. Remember I said we were going to use that? Well, it actually helps because it was a 3-shot. And then we Dig Growlithe. Execute, I go for Ember. Not quite a one-shot, and Leech Seed sucked. I thought we were going to lose here. I go for Body Slam, and it goes for a cover, plus Leech Seed, which sucks. But then it misses Disable, and funny enough, Blastoise doesn't have Hydro Pump here. So once I paralyze it, I can go for Dig, but it does, I think, have Withdraw, so I just keep going for Body Slam. And we get some good paralysis luck, and we win, maybe a little earlier than I was expecting. I'd actually love to go and battle Sabrina right now, which I can't do, but that would be a great way to get a little bit of extra experience points. Having said that, this was the last major hurdle I was worried about. If I couldn't beat Rival Fivel here, I would have just surfed to Cinnabar. There are a ton of useful experience points there and Fire Blast, but instead, I'm more than happy to go and beat Giovanni number 2. His Pokemon are incredibly easy for Ninetales to defeat, and so we have actually made it to a really nice point in the game where I can kind of do whatever I want, and the most important thing would be to go and gain some experience points in Cinnabar, both within the Pokemon Mansion, but more importantly, within Blaine's gym itself. Now, gym trainers are important because, as you probably know, once you defeat the gym, you cannot battle them even if you talk to them. They're just completely, let's call them, inert. So, battling them now ensures I don't miss out on this experience points. If I need to battle the swimmers, who have water Pokemon, so that would be worse, we can do that. But with Dig, I wasn't worried about any of these Pokemon, and I wasn't worried about Blaine either. I mean, I'm thinking it's just 4 digs and I win, right? Well, that's 1 dig, and we level up. Ponyta, that's 2 digs. Rapidash, 3 digs, albeit we got a crit. And then, well, it was 4, but maybe the crit mattered. Who knows? But now we're going to go head to Saffron, get Mimic, and then battle Sabrina. I don't think Sabrina is going to be too difficult either. We're just going to go Body Slam on Kadabra, knock it out. And then Mr. Mime takes 2 Body Slams. It actually confuses me. I go Fire Blast, but I get confused and then get hit. And then I get confused and then get hit with a crit. And then I miss and I get confused again. Then I get hit. And then I just decide, you know what? Fine, you win this one game. My next battle goes a lot better where I don't get confused versus Mr. Mime. I do miss with Fire Blast, but I knock out the Venomoth on the next turn, and Alakazam just goes Reflect. So, hooray. Now all that's left is Giovanni number 3, and I actually don't think he's going to be difficult either. He leads with Rhyhorn, but Dig, crit, and one-shot. Dugtrio, Body Slam, crit, and one-shot. Nidoqueen, Fire Blast did not crit and one-shot. Nidoking, Dig, didn't crit and didn't one-shot. It actually crit me. And then I level up, and then Rhydon, Dig actually crits again, and then I miss with Fire Blast. So you might wonder, J-Rose, looks like Fire Blast doing more than Dig. Why not just go for that? It can miss. So I didn't want to do that. But it didn't even matter. We're done. This is looking pretty good. But this is a little bit deceptive because, again, we need to make sure we have enough levels for Lorelie and, more importantly, Lance's Gyarados because it has Hydro Pump. And that's going to probably require some training in Victory Road, assuming we beat Rival 6. Let's see how that goes. So he leads with Pidgeot. I just go for Fire Blast, and we crit in one-shot. And then Rhyhorn, I go for Dig, and we crit in one-shot. And then Growlithe, I go for Body Slam, and we don't crit or one-shot. But it went for Leer, which actually boosts my stats. Fire Blast would have one-shot anyway. We would have outspeed anyway, and then we get a crit. Then we level up, so those boosts are gone. But this Blastoise actually doesn't have great moves, and once it goes for Withdraw, Fire Blast does more, and then eventually, this is going to sound crazy, we get another crit! Yeah, 1 in 5 chance of crits is pretty overpowered, and so Ninetales has made it to the Elite Four with, or at least Victory Road I should say, with decent timing. I'm going to battle pretty much every single trainer in here, because I've done this enough times that I know how this is going to go, if I don't. Speaking of doing this enough times, this is video number 132 in the solo run series, which is insane. It is also, as I mentioned, I think, unless I accidentally cut it out, in which case I'm mentioning it now, this is the final fire Pokemon we have left. There are 15 types of Pokemon in Pokemon Red and Blue. We have completed now, well, we haven't completed Ninetales yet, so not counting Ninetales, 4 other types. Do any of you offhand, without looking at the list, know what those types are? You can pause the video and guess right now. And do you remember the final video or the final Pokemon for each of those types? I'm going to just tell you right now, so, unpause or pause or do whatever you need to do. But the 4 types are Electric. We did that Magneton video. Some of you really didn't like the whole future predicting thing, but I do try to mix things up and change them up from time to time. That is the last electric Pokemon in Red and Blue. But for other 3 types, we actually have to go way back in the past. And this is where it gets kind of cool. Dragonair was video number 113, released back in July, so about a year ago. Well, just about 11 months, July 30th. And that was our final Dragon Pokemon. Then we need to go back even further to video 106 for Haunter, our final Ghost Pokemon. But for the first type that I completed in the Solo Run series, we got to go all the way back to just before the abridged, due to my concussion at the time, Month of Gyarados 2.0. That's right, we're in 2024 with video number 99, and that is Dugong. And of course, now we have video 132, our final Pokemon for the fire types, Ninetales. Going through the videos and looking at, honestly, how it's been 6 years and remembering when I made those videos, what else I was doing, it's kind of crazy. It's very nostalgic for me as someone who makes all these videos. And I've said this a few times, but I couldn't do it without the 2 Seans, Shaman, And if we go back to the way old ancient past, AJ, I think those are the only ones who've worked on these videos. I have had other editors, but they've done different videos. I had Sam do the black and white catch 'em all video, and I've had Andrew make a few of those kind of weird sort of like the tea video. He's done a really good job with those during the month of Jaros. Big shout outs to him because I don't use him often, but he's always willing to do me a favor and edit a video when I need like 30 videos in 30 days. Speaking of things that I should talk about, because this is a great time to kind of do some Jaros clerical work, I mentioned in my fundraiser for the Magneton video that the top comment I would do, it looks like, from what I can see, the top comment is someone wanting me to do a metronome run, or Clefable with metronome. So we're going to do both those things. We're going to do an all metronome run, and we're going to do a Clefable run. I know all metronome runs are kind of, whatever, but it's going to be fun, so we'll do that. Thankfully, we didn't reach the stretch goal for the fundraiser of me doing Month of Jaros 3.0, but maybe when Wind and Waves comes out, maybe you could convince me, but I'm going to need to get, like, all my editors working on that. It's not easy to do, but maybe, just maybe I will do it, but we'll see. We'll have to see. One of my biggest flaws is that, for whatever reason, I like doing things at the last second, or usually the second last second. This video, by the way, I was just told I needed to release it on Saturday, like before Sunday, meaning it's 3:20 a.m. my time, and this video is probably going to be live by like 6 p.m. So big shout out to Shaun. I have two Shauns. It's very confusing, but the one who spells his name like Shaun instead of Scene. Scene's really cool too. They're all great. But thank you so much. He's really good at turning around videos like this super quick. And I don't know what I'm going to do when I run out of the solo runs. I don't know, guys. I'm scared. But you know what I'm not scared about? Because as you can see, I've been battling all the trainers in Victory Road. I'm actually not that scared about the Elite Four because I feel like even though the in-game timer probably won't be that much better than the other fire Pokemon, I mean, spoiler alert, but it's not looking that way. I do feel like, on the other hand, I did do enough that the real timer should be okay. Not that I use that, but, less time. It's good for me. But all right, less rambling, more narrating. Ooh, I want to say something about narrating, but I'm going to first try this Loralee fight without using the rare candies, and, I mean, it went okay. The big problem was I forgot to teach Mimic, and that made Slowbro difficult, and it made Lapras, well, not impossible, but annoying. So in the second attempt, I do teach Mimic, and it made things a lot less difficult. Dugong misses with Takedown after I hit with Fire Blast, and then I knock it out. Cloyster, I one-shot with Fire Blast. Slowbro, I immediately Mimic Amnesia, and at this point, my Fire Blast is going to do more, and if I miss, Hydro Pump's going to do a heck of a lot less. Now, funny enough, I'm going to use Fire Blast against the not very effective Slowbro, Body Slam, which didn't one-shot, I'm annoyed by that, against Jinx, it could have paralyzed me, but then I am going to hit and one-shot Lapras with Fire Blast. Okay, I forgot to use an Elixir against Bruno, and that's going to be a problem, because I only have 2 Fire Blasts remaining. I'm like, no problem, just use Dig, right? Well, it hits with Rock Throw, which I think is only a 60 or 65% chance. What is it? I think it's 65. But not only that, it crits. What are the odds? Pretty low. Anyway, we get a Dig hit, and then, of course, I miss with Fire Blast. So I wasted on Hitmonchan, meaning I didn't Mimic. Well, I would have had to use Ice Punch, but would have been helpful. So I get in a little bit of trouble versus Hitmonlee. High Jump Kick, by the way, the recoil damage from missing is nothing. I think it's just 1. So I'm at 52, and that's going to be less once Onix gets a hold of me, or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we're okay. Nope, another Rock Throw. We're not okay, because it took like 15 years to knock it out with Dig. And now 1 submission and we lose. But thankfully, Bruno just spams X Defends. And with just 18 HP remaining, we don't lose to Bruno, thus we're not embarrassed. And please, for the love of everything, Jaros, use an Elixir. And actually, I'm going to use the rare candies after Agatha. That's what I'm going to do. Maybe that's a mistake. Let's see. So I'm going to go for Dig, and it one-shots. Okay, it wasn't a mistake. I'm going to go for Fire Blast, and it one-shots with a crit. And I'm going to go for Dig, and it one-shots. I don't think the crit mattered at all. I go for dig, and I don't one-shot, so crit would have mattered. But it's okay, because Arbok didn't do anything, and now I think we one-shot. Okay, that was easy. And hey, there's a level up. So perfect time to use my 11. That's how many you get without going to the power plant, which is out of the way. 11 rare candies. By the way, if you wonder, what am I doing while I'm doing these battles? Am I locked in? No. I'm talking about what show had the best representation of a queer couple. And if you're like, what the heck does that have to do with Pokemon? Absolutely nothing. It's just an interesting thing. And what I do when I'm not doing this is talking about TV or sports. Mostly talking about sports, but also TV. Did you guys know? I don't know if I mentioned this. Before I started JRose 11, I was going to do a daily Blue Jays review channel. Okay. The first plan was to do an episode by episode review of each episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Voyager, and DS9. Then I was worried about copyright, not just like monetization, like literally my videos getting taken down. So I didn't do that. Good call. The second idea for the channel was, so there's this guy who does hockey, Steve Dangle, and I didn't want to be exactly him, but an idea of doing like a baseball review thing, because I love baseball. And that was like 2015, 16. The Blue Jays were, for the first time, making the playoffs. I'd watched them for years. Who knew they could disappoint me any more than that? But I didn't end up doing that because I was worried no one would take me seriously. And so because I had a 3DS capture card, I made a Pokemon video, and literally the rest is history. My Marini video that got this channel off the ground, I had a baseball podcast that I cannot find that I was going to release, and it was either or. Literally. Alternate universe, eh? And if you're like, JRose, what the heck does this have to do with anything? Nothing. You guys keep telling me you like me rambling, you like me talking about things. Well, on my Twitch channel, we rambled about, is Schitt's Creek the best representation out there? Is David one of the best characters in terms of representation? I don't know, but that's what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about it as I'm battling Lance, the most difficult battle that I'm going to face. Actually, at this point in the chat, I'm talking about the biggest fall off in TV history, and we're debating whether it was Westworld or Game of Thrones. I said Game of Thrones. But I don't appreciate how we get body slam paralysis, full paralysis, body slam crit. I didn't even, until watching this back, internalize how absurdly ridiculous that was. In fact, you can even see a pause there because, oh, Gen 1 miss. But I am so locked into this conversation talking about, oh, is it supernatural? That's what I'm doing. So if you ever wondered why I make mistakes, sometimes it's because rather than pay attention to this incredibly clutch battle, like incredibly clutch battle from Ninetales, I'm talking about television. That's really, if you ever wondered, who is JRose really? That. You know, I am who I am, right? And right now, I actually do derail that conversation because even I want to lock in and beat the champion first try, because it's pretty cool to do that. Let's see if I can accomplish it. So, Fire Blast one-shots Pidgeot, that's good. Now I'm going to go and check, do I level up here? The answer is yes. So just go for Body Slam. Oh, no, I'm confused, but I have a backup. I'm going to go for Mimic and Mimic Recover. Perfect. It goes for Full Restore. Less perfect, but I'm not confused. I go for Body Slam. Now I can heal. And I can try to just stall the confusion. Okay, perfect. I'm at 177. Rhydon is probably going to lower my defense. I actually burn it, which is perfect. And now I can recover. Please Tail Whip. Nice. So that is probably GG. I try for another Tail Whip. I get Fury Attack, and then it feints to burn. I go for Dig. That one-shots the Arcanine. I need to not miss. I don't miss and get a crit. And now against Blastoise, I go for Body Slam. It goes for Withdraw. I go for Body Slam. Hydro Pump misses. I go for Body Slam. I get the Paralysis, but Full Restore. So I go for Body Slam. I get Withdraw. You might wonder, why not just go for Fire Blast? Because I'm trying to paralyze it and I don't want to miss. And Hydro Pump doesn't actually do all that much. I also knew eventually I'd get a crit. And hey, maybe that actually wasn't the best strat in retrospect, but it worked. And you might say, oh my god, JRose, this was a first try victory. This must be one of the best fire Pokemon you have ever used. It only took like an hour of real time. Level 71, 429. In the end of the day, even though I did this extremely efficiently, it actually didn't end up making much of a difference in terms of the in-game time, which is a testament to the fact that I am a remarkably consistent player. Also vindicates me using in-game time rather than real time. It is kind of crazy that Rapidash and It, although there was an extra level there on Ninetales, finished with the exact same in-game time. Crazier still, although this is somewhat debatable, if you had asked me, J-Rose, what is the best fire type in Red and Blue, probably would have guessed Moltres, which due to its slow level up group and bad moveset did horribly. Maybe Charizard, which arguably could be because it saved 10 minutes on our first choice, Flareon. However, when you consider Flareon was one of my first solo runs I had done, and that it was 3 levels ahead of Charizard, I actually have no problem saying it is the best fire Pokemon. But yeah, overall in Red and Blue, these Pokemon are not very good. The very best a fire Pokemon can finish is just inside the top 50, and that just makes it the top 1/3. And there's a very solid chance with some of the Pokemon we have remaining that Flareon and Charizard, both of whom are right now in the top 50. By the way, both beaten by pre-evolved Ghastly and neck with middle form Wartortle, just to give you an idea of how bad things are, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Sean, for editing this video so quickly. I will have another video on my second channel, JRose12, coming out soon. Shameless plug there, but I'll have another video on this channel soon as well. Take care.